Welcome to the first in our series of the Spring 2014 Brown Bags for Advising. And we welcome all of you who have come out on this Tuesday to be part of this discussion. Today we're going to hear from Christy Cunningham, who's the Associate Director in our Career Center at Stockton College. And she's presenting It's Our Business Too, What Preceptors Need to Know About Jobs and Careers in the 21st Century. Christy herself has had some twists and turns in her own career. She's been very adventurous in her career. She started her career in higher ed, working as a career counselor at Gettysburg College, and then she was assistant director of the new student programs at Towson University in Maryland. She's also been in the business world. She's been at the Four Seasons Hotel in Philadelphia as Director of Learning and Development for the New York Palace in Midtown Manhattan. So she's experienced higher ed and the business world. In between these twists and turns, Christy also made time to delve into the world of international education. She lived at sea for a total of a year and a half while working for 2 different shipboard education programs around the world. So she brings a lot of passion and energy to her field, and she has a lot of great information for us today. So we welcome Christy Cunningham to our program today. Thank you, Christy.
You know, every time I hear my bio, I'm always not sure whether to be more exhausted or excited to think that I'm most likely less than halfway through my career with all the things I've done already. But I am excited to be here today to chat with all of you about job searching and careers and how they've changed in the last 5 to 10 years and how they're looking to change in the future. When I sat down to gather my thoughts on what to talk about, I figured we have to start with, why should we care? Why does this matter? Why, it's clear probably why in my role at the college I need to care about these things and I need to know about these things. But why do you as a preceptor, as a faculty member, why does the institution need to care about jobs and careers and what's happening and changing there? And so I started gathering all this information, facts and statistics, and some of them are a little scary, articles, blog posts. There's a lot out there right now about college students and are they marketable, are they employable, are they learning the right skills? There's a lot of focus particularly on liberal arts colleges and are we training them in a way that helps them to be successful when they go out into the job market. There's a lot out there. I'm sure some of you have seen some of this. And as I was gathering all this, I happened to rewatch a video that I had seen last year, and I thought, he summarizes the reason why we need to care about this so concisely and so much more beautifully than I ever could. So what I would like to do is share with you just a brief clip from a video. This is a video, it was a TED Talk done at Lawrence University. It's on YouTube, you can find it. It was done by a gentleman by the name of Andy Chan. And Andy is let me get his job title correct, he's the VP for Personal and Career Development at Wake Forest University. And he was speaking at St. Lawrence to the faculty and staff of the university.
So do you hear that? Do you hear what I hear? It's this dull roar, like a crowd of angry people coming our way. It's really getting louder. In my work, I talk to lots of students, recent graduates, and their parents. And beyond the fact that they did enjoy going to college, there is one thing that most of them will say is that they're pretty pissed. They're pissed because it was such an anxiety-ridden process to try to figure out this path from college to career. They're pissed because many of them feel underemployed or unemployed. When actually thousands upon thousands of recent graduates are unemployed, you can understand why they're angry. The bad news is they're actually angry at us. When you interview freshmen before they come to college, what they'll tell you is one of the number one reasons why they think they're coming to college is to get a better job. When we actually talk to those students when they're high school seniors and we're in admissions and we're trying to convince them to come, what do we say? We say, you're going to come and get a great education. You're going to learn how to think creatively and critically. You're going to get a broader perspective, a global perspective. You're going to be able to think in such a way that will prepare you for life. In fact, what we sometimes say are these words is we're going to give you a holistic education where we'll help you lead rich lives filled with meaning and purpose. And that sounds fantastic. But to those students, what they're thinking is, I hope a good job comes with that too. And when it doesn't, they feel let down. So we're making promises that in some ways we're not really fulfilling. And so I can understand why they're angry. But we can do something about it. I think one of the things that we find ourselves in this world thinking is that our students are not capable of doing more than one thing. We find ourselves saying they come to get an education, so that's what they're here for. That's all that they should do. And I think our students would beg to differ. They would say, I have friends, I can travel, I have all these clubs I'm involved with. I actually can multitask. In fact, I can multitask circles around most of the teachers and the faculty administrators in this room, so why can't you add the career question into that equation? Why do we say we won't let them do that? They're very confused. And honestly, given my background, I find I've always been confused too. But I think there's time to try to do something a little bit different. There's a couple, I should say, there are three big trends that are actually continuing to get that big tidal wave more momentum. The first one is this. The world of work has been fundamentally transformed. We all know it. It looks nothing like it did before. The world is flat. There are fewer jobs. The competition is fierce. It is not only global. It's actually, our students are competing against people who have been out in the workforce for 5, 10, or 15 years. So they're not only competing with other people who are 21, 22, 23 years old, they're competing against 40 years old for the same jobs. They have no idea. On top of that, the employers have said the knowledge and skills that students need to have to actually be competitive to get a job have ratcheted way up. And so they're actually looking, because they don't spend any much money anymore on training, they're looking at the schools to say, you should be training them these things. And they should be able to, when they interview for jobs, be able to articulate, given what they've learned, why they will be great employees at this organization and why they're actually really committed to do whatever it takes to be great. But if we actually never spend any time talking to our students about those questions, they have no idea that that's what they're supposed to be trying to do when they actually get into an interview. We need to help them make that transition and understand what's really expected. Second, there has been a huge proliferation in this notion that undergraduate pre-professional programs are the way to go. Now, students who are here at a liberal arts college might say, well, that's not us because we made that choice to come here. But if you go to a college where they have undergraduate programs that compete right along with liberal arts college, I can tell you that on that kind of campus, and Wake Forest is a campus that's like that, there is a huge angst for those students who are actually not in the business program because they think that they're unemployable. And there's a huge angst among all those students who actually go to these major research universities when they're seniors in high school deciding, I have to decide if I'm going to be an engineer or a business student before I even know what those are. And because of that, it's actually reducing then the demand and the interest in the liberal arts. And that's a problem. Third, the politicians are getting into the act. And that's usually not a good sign. Right? We've heard it. Governors from major states, Texas, North Carolina, Florida, in the last year have all basically bashed the liberal arts, saying that they're going to propose that we strongly consider reducing the amount of funding going to universities who have programs that have majors or disciplines that don't result in employability. Even when some of those governors were actually liberal arts majors themselves. They've drunk some new Kool-Aid, and now they're saying it's not time to actually invest in what actually I got out of it. That's sort of scary. President Obama's getting into the act. He's created this college scorecard. In principle, it sounds like a really good concept to try to help people make good decisions. But if you actually get into it, some of the data and what will come out for how people are going to make those decisions will actually really harm the value and the perceived value of the liberal arts. So we can either stand and watch it happen to us, or we can actually move into it and try to do something about it. That's something for us all to think about.
So he gave us quite a lot to think about there, didn't he? And I think we could spend days and days on different angles of this topic and what we need to do about it. Do things need to change? Maybe they don't need to change. We could go in so many different directions. But we don't have all day. We don't have days and days. We have an hour together today. So I'm going to narrow us down to 3 main focuses for the rest of our time together. And before I share these with you, I did just want to mention, you may have noticed the name of this presentation was Career Services Must Die. And I don't want you to think I'm talking myself out of a job here. Because if you watch his entire video, really I feel like the crux of his message is that we can no longer say it's one office's responsibility to focus on jobs and worry about jobs and careers for students. That it really does need to become an institutional priority, that we all need to have a career focus and have careers on our mind and in every interaction when we're, and every interaction we have with students. So what we're going to spend our time on today is I wanted to, in particular, share with you 2 big changes that I have noticed in the world of work, even from when I started working in the beginning of my career in career development, from when I worked in HR, and even just in the last 3 years that I've been here at Stockton. I see these changes happening, or the impact of these changes happening more and more. So I'm going to share with you a couple big changes that I see in job searching in the world of work. And then we're going to focus on how, because of these changes, our students are struggling in this new reality and where they're having trouble with launching successfully as they leave college. And thirdly, I'm going to focus on some concrete ideas or suggestions I have for how we, as preceptors and faculty, can maybe help students and support students so that they don't struggle quite so much when it comes time to look for jobs and seek careers. So that's our plan for today. Does that sound good? Yes. All right. So the first thing I want to do is talk about these changes. First change I want to talk about is how job searching has changed. It used to be sufficient years ago to put all of your experience on a piece of paper, hand it out to employers, and say, here you go. You figure out if I'm right for your job or I'm right for your company. You tell me. That doesn't work anymore. Employers expect candidates to do the heavy lifting when it comes to job searching. And actually, our director, Walter, went to a conference last spring, and when he came back, he shared all of his notes with us. It was a conference up in North Jersey. And there was a quote in his notes that I loved so much that I actually wrote it down, and I have it posted above my desk right now. And this quote said, "The American workplace will never again accommodate the passive job seeker." And I think this is beyond true. Again, the burden has shifted. Employers and recruiters expect the candidates to do all of the heavy lifting. And what do I mean by heavy lifting? First off, what I mean is putting all that experience on a piece of paper doesn't work anymore. Employers expect students to have a clear idea of what it is that they want to do and what it is that the employer's company does and what the positions that they're seeking, what that's all about, and then design a resume that fits and highlights the experience and skills that that student has that most directly relates to the field or industry that they're applying for or the position. So that means students have to have a clear idea what they want to do. And as a lot of us know, they don't always know that. But it may mean that they have to have multiple versions of their resume for different things that they're going for. It means they're going to have to change their resume quite a bit. And this always scares students. They think, I just want to get it done. Doesn't the resume, you put it all on a piece of paper and it's done. And it's oftentimes news to them that it's not done. And what oftentimes trips them up is they're not very clear about what industries or fields or exact positions they are interested in. Now, I don't want to get it confused. I don't think this isn't about figuring out the one right thing. There isn't the one right thing for any of us. But they do need to have a clear idea of what their career targets might be, the directions they want to go, the focuses that they want to have. The other big shift here is that, and the way that employers expect students to do the heavy lifting is because of technology, because of the internet, they expect students to have done research on the company, know all about them, Know about the positions, know about the industry or the field, have some knowledge about it. Again, kind of a struggle when they don't know exactly what they want to do. So again, there's a bigger burden on students to do a lot of research and identify what their career targets are, and then to design resumes and figure out how to meet people in the fields that they're interested in, more so than there ever was before. So that's the first thing. Oh, the second thing is, the other thing that I added to this is what was your main job search tool in the past? Your main job search tool was your resume and your cover letter. Now, employers are also saying, well, where's your presence online? Not just do you have the embarrassing stuff hidden away, so I can't find it, but where is your positive online professional presence? Do you have one? Are you out there? If I Google you, will you show up? This is an added component that is very new in the last 5 to 10 years. Students now, one of the tools that students use, and it actually is a great tool, is LinkedIn. Some of you may be familiar with it. But the trick now is they say, oh, you know what? LinkedIn should be different than your resume. Don't just put pieces of your resume on LinkedIn. That should be a kind of a different focus, highlighting some different things, and having, you know, your full online presence there. So they have that. And to add on top of all of that, and this is something that students say they understand this, but I don't think they really do. They think technology is going to make job searching easier. They think they're going to go out and find I always joke about the magic website. Here's the magic website of all the jobs for biology students, and here's the magic website for all the jobs for psychology students. Fortunately, that doesn't exist. And actually, there was a survey done by Career Crossroads, which is a recruiting and staffing agency, and they reported that only 15% of jobs are filled through job boards. Just 15%. 25% are filled through postings on company websites, and an additional percentage is found through referrals. So that's not changed in the world of work. That's always been the case. But only 15%. So how much time, I bet if you ask students who are job searching, how much time and what are you doing to job search, the majority of them will probably say they're spending the majority of their time online looking for job postings. Well, this clearly shows this is not your best tool. Another statistic that shows that's not your best tool, and this has been around, no one knows how true it actually is, but 70% of jobs are never advertised. This is the statistic they had back when I started in career development, when the internet was not a force in job searching, and people are still quoting it today. And I've seen messages go around, people saying, where does this come from? Is it accurate? Do we know? Whether it is or it isn't, I would agree. When you think about how people hire and how they prefer to hire someone they know. If they can't have someone they know, they prefer to hire someone that someone they know recommends. Their bottom of the barrel last choice is always going to be to post it publicly and take people that they don't know. I know that from when I sat on the HR side. We would much rather have, hire someone that we had some sort of connection with. So I believe that this is true. I think that they post things widely only when it's their last resort. So when you think about that, again, students sit there and go, well, what do I do then? And this is something that hasn't changed. Networking is a big part of it. But how do you network if you don't know what fields that you're interested in? So as you can see, as how these things have changed, how job searching, the burden has really shifted more towards the job candidate more than ever before. They have to do a lot more in order to get themselves even in the right place to be considered for jobs. The other big piece that I want to focus on is how the actual world of work has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. And I quote this all the time to students. Students graduating today can expect to have between 5 and 7 major career shifts throughout their working lifetime. This is, we've all seen it happen. I always, tell this, a good example is my own family. My grandfather, when he got out of the military, he got a job with the A&P as a manager, and he did that for his whole career. My parents both became teachers, but they worked in a couple different schools. So they stayed in the same industry, but they did move jobs a couple times. And then there's my career, where, again, I'm not even halfway through, and I've already shifted. I've worked in 3 completely different industries already. That's what our students are facing in the future. I've heard people say that the number of 5 to 7 career shifts is probably more going to be closer for our students graduating today, closer to 7 to 10 major career shifts, meaning working in different industries, different fields, and completely different positions. I even read an article, it's really kind of dreaming big, that said that they think that more and more companies are going to dissolve and not have full-time employees and instead just bring groups of people together to work on projects for periods of time. Could be a year, as long as a year or two, but that we're not going to have full-time employees for years and years and years, that we're going to be shifting and moving around based on where the needs are. On top of that, the jobs that are going to be most in demand in the future don't even exist yet. And the positions that are highly in demand today did not exist 5 years ago. So this is tricky for students. I can tell you through my own experience, what makes that scary is we used to identify and ground ourselves and ground our career in our job title or our profession or our industry. And as someone who has shifted around quite a bit, at first that's a little disconcerting to say, when people ask, what are you? What do you do? How do I describe myself? What do I do? I've done a lot of different things. What I have found that has helped me, and I think a lot of people who do this have found this to be helpful, is you really need to ground yourself, it sounds so cliche, but in your own brand. What are the skills and talents that I bring to the table, any table that I end up at? And that has been really, really grounding for me. I feel really solid and really confident switching fields because I know what I bring strongly to the table, again, whatever table it is. It's expected that our students be able to do this. And this is really hard. I don't think I could have done this when I was 21 years old. I couldn't have been that confident. I wasn't as clear about what my skills and talents were. And as Andy said in the video, they're now needing to do this earlier because they're not just competing with other 21-year-olds. They're competing with 40-year-olds and people that have been in the workforce and shifting around and moving around that are a little bit more solid in what their skills and talents are. And so that's a challenge for our students. The other thing, oh, I already said that. All right. This fact that they're going to be shifting careers just really highlights again the fact that it's crucial for our students to understand and leverage their skills and talents. In order to be successful, they need to develop and understand their own brand. And they need to be doing this earlier than ever before. So they really need to figure out, who am I? What are my talents? What are my strengths? What are my skills? What do I bring most strongly to the table? So, based on those two big things, all the heavy burden of job searching, and they have to know what they want to do, and they have to tailor their documents and tailor their networking, and coupled with the fact that they're going to be most likely shifting careers, shifting jobs throughout their career, and they really have to become solid in their brand, I want to share with you some challenges that I've witnessed students have with these new realities. First is students don't know their skills or talents, or they're not confident in them. Every time I do a mock interview or every time I review a personal statement for a student getting ready for graduate school, I oftentimes have to ask, well, what is it that you bring most strongly to the table? What are your skills and your talents? And I will tell you, and Dana and Pat I'm sure would agree, 99% of the time I get deer in headlights. And they freeze up and they're like, I don't know. they don't know. Now here's the funny thing. Liberal arts and what they're learning as a liberal arts student is a fantastic playground for developing the skills that employers want. There are surveys every year. What do employers look for? They look for students with strong verbal communication skills, strong written communication skills, problem-solving skills, analytical skills, teamwork skills, leadership skills, interpersonal skills, a strong work ethic, students that take initiative. All of those things they get the chance to develop through the liberal arts. But the challenge of the liberal arts is it's not very concrete to students. They have a difficulty saying, I can do this, I'm good at this, or even I learned how to do this when it comes to liberal arts. Actually, the seed for this, the idea for this brown bag came from when I watched Peter Hagen and Rob Gregg's brown bag last semester. I couldn't attend, but I watched the video later, so people do watch. And I think it was Rob who mentioned, we were talking about the liberal arts, and he mentioned the problem, or maybe it was you, I can't remember, the problem isn't that we're not teaching students these skills that are attractive to employers. It's that our students don't know how to articulate that, or they don't understand what skills they are learning as part of the liberal arts, because it's not very concrete to them. It feels very abstract. Here's one that it just struck me as I was typing up my notes. The other challenge is, up until the point when they're ready to apply for jobs or apply to graduate school, someone else has always assessed their skills and abilities. They've never been asked to do it for themselves. You know, that's why I think we get deer in the headlights, because we're the first ones saying, no, you have to tell me what you're good at. I'm not going to tell you what you're good at. You have to be able to tell me what you're good at. Rarely is it put back on them to be responsible for identifying and assessing their own skills, abilities, and talents. When it comes time to develop their own brand or identify careers that could be a good fit for them, students just don't know how to own that. They just don't know. So, some suggestions I have on how we can help them with this challenge. First off, we need to give them opportunities to identify, assess, and reflect on their own abilities. Asking them questions. What did I learn? Where did I excel? Paul and I have talked about a possible second brown bag where we go a little more deeply into appreciative inquiry and appreciative advising, like what questions can we ask to draw that out of students. But just asking questions that put it back on them to not forcing, but encouraging them to reflect on and assess for themselves, what did I do well? What did I take away from this? What did I learn? Can always be helpful. We have tools in our office that help students start to identify and assess their talents and their skills. We use a tool called Focus, which has some self-assessment tools, which again could be a place for students to get started. It's really hard because if you just say to a student, what are you good at? It's too broad. There's not enough of a frame for them to know where to go with that. So if we can give them some smaller frames, some smaller tidbits, that can always be helpful. I think one thing that can be helpful in helping students identify is give them opportunities to develop stories and examples that illustrate their strengths and their skills. So asking them questions, asking them to tell you stories, give you evidence. This is, by the way, a crucial skill when it comes time to interview, is to be able to share illustrations, share examples, share stories of, what your talents and your strengths and your skills are. And again, it gives them a frame in which to put it. Why I say a frame, let me do a quick exercise with you. If I asked you in the next 10 seconds to write down everything you can think of that is white, go. Okay, stop. Now I want to give you a secondary exercise. In the next 10 seconds, I want you to write down everything you can think of that is white in your refrigerator. Okay, stop. Were you able to come up with as many, if not more, things for the refrigerator than when I asked you for the... Yes. Oftentimes that's the case. I mean, if you gave you enough time, you could probably come up with quite a few things, but you probably still get stuck on the first one. But as soon as I gave you enough of a frame to say, I want you to just think about your refrigerator, you could rattle off a lot more. So to give our students specific opportunities, not just saying what are you good at, but to ask them to tell you a story or ask those specific questions. How did you feel? How did that feel when you did that? How did people respond? So giving them a frame to draw some of those out can be really, really helpful. I'm teaching a class for the first time this semester, and this was really important for me. I'm teaching public speaking, and I decided to build into the curriculum an initial self-assessment, a midpoint assessment, and a final assessment where they write to me. Their initial assessment is where they set goals for themselves, because my thought is, you need to engage in your own learning. You need to decide what you want to get out of this. And for the midpoint and the final assessment, I'm going to ask them, how are you doing on those goals? How would you rate yourself? And give me evidence to back that up. Why are you saying this about yourself? So I'm trying to give them opportunities to assess their own skills and sort of take ownership of that, so that'll become easier in the future. So that's the first one, is giving our students opportunities to identify and own what am I good at. The second challenge that I see for students is that they haven't researched, explored, or identified career targets. Here's what I hear all the time. What would you like to do? That's the first question I ask. So give me an idea. What would you like to do? Oh, I want a biology job. And I say, okay, well, what does that mean to you? Well, I want a job, a biology job that relates to biology. And I say, okay, well, what does that mean to you? And usually if it's biology, they go, well, maybe a lab job? They don't know. They think once they've chosen their major, they're done their decision making. I'm done. There's the traditional liberal arts, yes, they know. Sociology majors know they're most likely not going to be a sociologist, and they've got more steps to take. I actually think it's our pre-professional students that struggle with this more, because they think they're done. And really they're not. I would say, we need to stress the importance of exploring careers, and choosing a major is only one step in that process. So they need to be researching careers that relate to their majors or careers that relate to their interests, their values, personality. Again, our focus tool that we do online can help with that step as well. We also have tools like what can you do with a major in, to give them ideas of what are some typical career paths that people take that relate to their major if they want to do something. I also have to help people realize they don't have to do anything directly related to their major, and it doesn't mean that they're not using their college degree if they go in a different direction. Another example is even if students have a very clear idea of the direction they want to go, there's still more research to be done. They need to be researching what are the entryways in, what are entry-level jobs, how much money can I make, what are the pathways into this, how much work-life balance is there going to be in a job like this, what are the expectations. An example I have is Pat in our office teaches a hospitality class focused on careers and job searching, and she invites me in to talk about hospitality, because I worked in hospitality. I worked in 2 different hotels. And every time when I talk about the usually lack of work-life balance that you get in the hotel industry, students are sitting there like, what? I had no idea. And these are juniors and seniors. These are folks ready to job search, all gung-ho. I'm going to get a job in a hotel or a restaurant. And then they realize they're going to be working 60, 70 hours a week. They're going to have to work weekends. They're going to have to work holidays. And they're like, no one ever told me that. No matter where they are in their decision-making process, there's more research that they should be doing, more exploring that they should be doing. I always say a good goal is to identify 2 to 4 career targets. Again, it's not about the one right thing. Then and only then can they design tailored resumes and come up with a list of target employers. I use the metaphor all the time of shooting arrows. When someone keeps their focuses broad, they don't have those targets, they have no idea, they start, I'll apply to anything, I'll go anywhere, I'll do anything. It's like they're shooting arrows and having no idea where their targets are. Their targets could be here, their targets could be back there. What are the likelihood of hitting something? They could hit something, but the probability is not very great. But if instead they can do the hard work of exploring, researching, and identifying 2 to 4 career targets, they can then shoot arrows in the right direction. They can make sure their resume is tailored towards that field or that industry. They can be focused on how do I meet people in this field? What else do I need to learn about this field? What companies or organizations hire people in this field? So that they can come up with their list of target employers. Then they can have some concrete steps moving forward. I think some things that can help students in this area is, one, to always encourage them, don't just settle for, oh, I'm a psych major. Oh, okay. What do you want to do with that? You have an idea? Have you explored any career paths? Or even if they say, oh, I want to be a social worker. Oh, well, what sector would you want to work in? Do you have an idea? Have you talked to anyone who's a social worker before? So again, asking those questions to kind of push them to go a little deeper. I also think just encouraging students to get involved. Service learning, internships, different jobs, clubs, really anything to broaden their exposure to different types of work fields or industries, and have an opportunity it also gives them the opportunity to develop skills so that they have more skills to market when it is time to job search. Also, a lot of us have connections in different worlds of work, so to help students make connections and connect with professionals working in different industries or fields of interest. Again, it can broaden their exposure to the different possibilities, and also help them understand the realities of the fields that they are interested in. Because they think they know it, but they don't always. So that's the second struggle, figuring out what they want to do. And then the third one is students come into this process seeking the destination, the one right thing. They think, I'm going to figure it out and then I'm done. They think there's a right job for them, and this is overwhelming. And not that staying in one career path is a dead end. I don't want that picture to construe that. But the way the world of work is shifting, that's becoming less and less likely of a possibility. Companies are not as loyal to employees as they used to be. Employees are not being loyal. People are shifting, moving. One thing I read said that the folks that graduated in the last 3 or 4, like 5 years, they tend to be shifting jobs every 2.5 years. At that rate, they're going to work in 20 different fields or industries. I don't know if it's going to go that far, but it is changing. I think a couple things that we can help our students with in this area are to kind of get out of that mindset of there's one right thing or I have to do something directly related to my major. I had a student the other day majored in biology, and she kept saying, well, maybe I look for a lab job or this. But as we started talking, I was like, you don't want to do any of those things. She's like, yeah, I don't want to do any of those things. I said, why are you looking at them? She said, well, I don't want to waste my degree. No, you're never wasting your degree. So we got to get them out of that mindset of being stuck, focused on just one thing. We need to help them focus on the skills that they're attaining rather than what their the actual major is. I heard a speaker this past fall that he talked about that students that are locked into just their major could be in trouble. That they really need to know their skills, and then they'll be able to apply them in whatever sector or system that they want to be in. And again, this is mind-boggling to students. That it's scary. So, you know, anything we can do to help let them know it's okay is good. I think 2 other things that can be helpful in helping students break out of there's only one direction for me is to encourage entrepreneurialism in our students. You know, giving them opportunities to think more like an entrepreneur, because that's really how they're going to have to view their careers for many of them moving forward, is as if they're an entrepreneur. Again, sort of like I have. I ground myself in what are my skills and my talents, and then I bring that to whatever setting I decide I want to work in. I also think related to that is we have to give our students opportunities to fail. We don't do that very often. We need to encourage experimentation. We need to give them opportunities to try and maybe fall down and have to pick themselves up and realize that that is okay, because that's going to happen in their job search. I think this is particularly important, and this I think was true even before the world of work started to change drastically, is that for many of our students, and I think this is a particular trap for our very successful students, they've gotten, up to this point, they've gotten everything that they've ever wanted. They had the grades, they had the oh, I got into school, oh, I got into grad school, I got it. And the job search is usually the first time that they face rejection or failure. And that becomes even scarier when you're looking at, I may have to do this multiple times throughout my career. And so anything we can do to encourage students to experiment and show them that it's okay to fail and that they're not penalized for that failure, or that the learning that comes out of that failure is more valuable than the failure itself. So that was a lot of talking on my part. I did want to share, I do have some additional resources I wanted to share in case you're interested in learning more. The Generation Next Goes to Work. This is actually something that Pat shared with me. This gentleman, there's an article on his website, and this is where you can go to his website. Oh, I forgot the .com. I apologize. TaylorPrograms.com, and on the left-hand side, one of the links is articles. And the article title is Generation Next Goes to Work. And it's really eye-opening for those of us who are a little bit older about how students are approaching work and what how their expectations are a little unrealistic moving into the world of work. And it gives you some concrete ideas about how we can help and support students through that. And then if you want to see the rest of Andy Chan's video, you can look it up on YouTube. Just type in Career Services Must Die and it will come up. It's a really good, the whole video is really good. And then, of course, for those of you from Stockton, the Career Center is a great tool and resource for you. We are here, we have expertise in these areas. If you ever have questions, you know, we want to be your partners in helping our students. We can't meet with every student, and actually they listen to you much more than they listen to us. And so Yeah, Emma's shaking her head. Maybe, maybe not. But they do. They listen to faculty members. But you utilize us. Ask us questions about the job search. If you have questions about specific industries, trends, job markets, we may not have all the answers, but we can hopefully point you in the right direction. Also use our resources. You may be interested in following us on Facebook or LinkedIn. I post articles all the time. We post events. This week I've got stuff on there. Wait, I wrote it down. Just this week on our LinkedIn and Facebook pages, I posted articles on after the interview, 10 reasons you haven't heard anything yet, 6 reasons your job search has been an epic fail, ready to impress, 12 questions to ask at a job interview, frustrating internship search, small changes can make a big difference. So I try and post things that not only help our students, but they could be good resources for you as well. So you may want to follow us. And then, of course, I did also want to give a plug to our career fair that's happening on Thursday. And based on all the stuff I said, the career fairs are not just for juniors and seniors. They should be coming sophomore year, to explore, start to do that exploration, get comfortable in a career fair setting, be talking to employers. Employers are asking to connect with students earlier and younger. And so they want to talk to students, so we should be encouraging them. And then, of course, we're there for you to refer your students to us as well. But again, we want to be your partners in helping them navigate and be successful in this new world of work and job searching.